guys, we got insurance registrations to talk about. There are so many ESA orders. It's absolutely crazy. If you place an ESA order today, you have to wait like 4 to 6 months to get that car. Absolutely insane. All right. And of course, this is definitely a good sign. There's lots of demand, super bullish. So when people place down their order and lock in their order, all right, now you can't refund or deposit anymore because it's locked in. Some people have been unfortunately shown a long wait time of 17 to 19 weeks, which is around 4 months. And some people, at first it shows 4 to 6 weeks, and then it shows that, hey, it's actually several months out. So this has caused a lot of people to form protest groups, which you can see here. So they're mostly upset about the fact that they lock in the orders expecting to be able to take delivery maybe soon, but then actually, even though it's right after the launch event, you're scheduled for a couple months out, which they don't want to wait that long. Well, at least NIO will subsidize for the tax difference, subsidy difference, and of course compensate them for waiting and give them NIO points, which is definitely a good thing. Moving on to insurance registrations for last week, September 15th to the 21st, we can see Tesla at first place with 17,000, and then Leap Motor 12,000, Xiaomi with 10,000, Ito with 10,000. Ito, of course, has hybrids, and then Xpeng with 9,000, Li Auto with 8,500, NIO Group 6,670, and then going down the list, you have Zeekr at number 10 spot, 3,200, Avatar 1,880, IM Motors, I think they're not doing too well. So not too spectacular deliveries, about the same as the previous week. And let's break into the specific numbers. So the bulk of the deliveries came from the Envoy L90 with 2,410 insurance registrations, and then the ET5 ET5T with 1,580, Firefly 1,310, ES6 EC6 930, Envoy L60 370, others 40, and the ET7 30. So one thing to keep in mind is the Envoy L60, even though the numbers are low, it's going to really jump back up because they just launched the new version of the Envoy L60. A lot of customers have been waiting for that, so that's why the numbers are low. So normally this would be actually maybe up around 1,000-ish, all right? Of course, next week's numbers, or the week that we're in right now, we'll expect much higher numbers thanks to the ES8 with those deliveries finally kicking in, and we can expect pretty good results from that because they have produced a lot of cars. So we can expect maybe 7,000, 8,000, and of course the Envoy L60 even kicking in as well. So that will probably make us 8,000, 9,000 possibly. So that will be very good, and that's my expectations for this week. 9,000, all right, at least 9,000. And maybe even up to 10,000 plus, depending on how many ES8s they get to customers. So I'm thinking they're probably going to get maybe 2,000 to 3,000 ES8s to customers in the first week. Remember, they are capped by delivery centers. The delivery centers at capacity, they won't be able to, like, say, deliver 7,000, 8,000 ES8s in 1 week. It's just not possible, okay? So keep your expectations in check. However, my expectations are quite bullish at around 9,000 to 10,000 for this week. Now, knowing that production and delivery for the ES8 model for the remainder of this year is capped at 40,000-ish deliveries, can NIO still achieve its 150,000 delivery target for Q4, which is very optimistic, very bullish. Now for that, we have to really pay attention to the ES6 and EC6 numbers because some of that is being converted into the ES8, which you do not want to happen because that means that some deliveries that were supposed to happen right now, people taking delivery of the ES6, EC6, are in turn waiting in line for the ES8 and will be taking delivery in next year because of the long ES8 line. So that's not good. We don't want to see that happen. And before, ES6 and EC6 was the #1 spot in terms of NIO's bestseller. Okay, so we really want to keep those numbers up for the ES6 and EC6. That is the critical thing, and let me explain why. So with the Envoy L90 delivering 2,410 per week. That's roughly about 9,000 per month. But we know that the Envo L90 can get up to 15,000 a month. They're going to ramp that up in October, 15,000 a month. So let's be optimistic and say Envo L90 is going to get 15,000 a month. And even though that might be a little bit high, let's just be optimistic. All right. So that's that. And then we have Firefly at 6,000 a month. They've already achieved this, so it's not out of the blue. So that gives us 21,000 total insurance registrations for deliveries a month from just the Envo L90 and the Firefly. And then the ES8, we're talking about 13,000 a month, because that's the 40,000 cap for the remainder of this year divided by 3. And if you exclude the remainder of September, so that gives us around 13,000 a month for ES8. Again, very, very optimistic. All right, this is on the higher end of my estimation. So that gives us 34,000 per month. Okay, and then the ET5, ET5T, I don't expect these cars to really lose orders to the ES8, because it's a different form factor and it's really more suitable for like people, young people that like stylish cars, or ladies, young ladies, etc. So with that, it can remain consistent at around 7,000 insurance deliveries per month. So that gives us a total of 41,000 deliveries per month. We're very close to the 50,000 mark. And of course, that means for the ES6, EC6, and others, including the EC7, the ET7, okay, these cars have to get 9,000 a month to get a total of 50,000 deliveries. And this is where the challenge is. I think this is the biggest challenge, to get 9,000 deliveries for the ES6, EC6, and the others, because they are losing some orders to the ES8. The ES8 is just too good, too cheap, and too powerful. All right, too good of a spec for that price point. All right, it's really making people doubt their ES6 purchase and switching to the ES8, which is what we don't want to see. So if NIO is able to keep the ES6 and EC6 plus others at 9,000 per month, then we can totally get that 50,000 delivery mark. All right, that will be very nice. Now, did NIO make the ES8 way too cheap? In my opinion, yes, but let me know what you guys think. I think this price point makes the other cars in NIO's lineup very, very uncomfortable. All right, in the sense that they're so close to the ES8. Right, that's an uncomfortable spot. And it will be very interesting to see next year when they launch the ES7, what price will that be? All right, that's definitely going to be cheaper than the ES8, right? But then how cheap are you going to get? And then what about the NT 3.0 ES6? Man, that's going to be way, way cheaper, right? So yeah, this price point, I think they got a blockbuster product, but they could have charged a little bit more. Just my personal opinion. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.